Hi, my name's George Bevan and I'm one of the directors at Conservation Diver. And today in this Patreon video I'm going to talk to you about the different types of business model that you could use when designing a marine conservation program of your own. Now, these models aren't mutually exclusive. Components of each can be used to create a bespoke plan that fits your needs, the environment you're in and the people you plan to work with. However, thinking about these models and their pros and cons can help you craft in your mind the best approach of how to start a program based upon the situation you are in and the skill sets you have. So, let's talk about the first type of model you could use. This is a staff instructor model. In the staff instructor model, you will sit as a member of staff in the instructor team at a dive centre. The dive centre will be the one who runs and manages the conservation program. They will be fully invested, they will have put money, capital into buying equipment, promotion, marketing, and importantly they'll be using their pool of current students to try and get people to do marine conservation. The program will probably even be branded the Bubble Divers, for instance, Marine Conservation Program. You will simply sit as an instructor who teaches the materials for the dive centre. Now there's pros and cons to this sort of model. Let's consider the pros. In this model, the dive centre is fully incentivised. As I said, it will throw its weight behind making this successful and try and push as many students to you as possible. You won't have to get involved in some administrative tasks and scheduling tasks that may be necessary if you run your own program, for instance. You won't have to get involved in maintenance of equipment necessarily and running of boats, staff and other things that you will need to do if you run your own program. You could therefore focus on your work and your research. If you are new to teaching diving, a new conservation diver instructor, or someone who has all the scientific background but no teaching background, this may be the place for you to start, because you have the security of the dive centre around you that supports you, and you can really focus on harnessing your skills of teaching, research and the scientific output that you are trying to achieve. But what are the cons? The cons are that you're not in fully control of the program and its work. The dive centre might encourage certain types of conservation that are either popular, get more money and students to come and do them, and therefore aren't focusing on a holistic environmental plan that the marine conservation program should be achieving. You therefore won't have full control over the direction of where you would like to take things. You also may not be earning that much money. You'll be working on a commission basis, and if there aren't any students you might not be earning anything. In these instances, you may also be required to teach, say, PADI, SSI, and do other things around the dive centre to try and earn an income. So, there are pros and cons. However, if you're new to teaching and scientific diving, this may be the one for you to start exploring in the first instance. The second type of model is a joint venture model. Here, you will step up to the management team within the dive centre in control of the marine conservation program's operational requirements. You'll probably be involved in scheduling, even some sort of marketing, and may even be asked to put some capital down to invest in certain materials and equipment needed to teach your courses. So, the pros of something like this. You can see from the last model, you're starting to gain some more control over the direction of the program. You'll be the one booking people, booking certain courses, deciding the work that you will be doing. You'll also be in charge of marketing and the messages you would like to send out to your wider community and the social media that you would like to promote. You are, however, going to have to put some money into a program like this. It is unlikely that the dive centre will just fully invest in everything you need. So there is a capital consideration here. Also considering the last model, you're going to have a little bit more knowledge of what it means to manage a dive centre. You will probably have to fix equipment now and then, understand how to fix problems at sea, maybe even drive the boat. So you're going to have to upskill yourself in the overall dive industry if you're going to consider a model like the joint venture model. But benefit is that the profits you make, you will have some control over how to spend these. You will therefore be able to direct more advancements in your program and be able to consider new avenues of your research and scientific output. So, we're understanding that a model like this, where you're taking more managerial control, can give you some pros but also give you some cons. The next model we'll talk about is a partnership model. This is similar to a joint venture model, but however, you won't sit on a managerial team, you will essentially own the program that partners with a dive centre to share facilities. So for instance, you will approach a dive centre, ask to start a marine conservation program, and agree some sort of financial arrangement for the courses you teach to use boats and facilities of that dive centre. Pros of something like this: you can design, manage the program however you wish. You could call it what you wish, and you can do whatever you like. However, you have to use the facilities of the dive centre, which may have some considerable cost to your overall financial plans. You will also, in sharing facilities, may not be prioritised to do the work. For instance, if the dive centre here has 4 open water students, you have 4 marine conservation students, are they going to give you the boat space? So you may at sometimes need to negotiate this within your financial plan, and also on a day-to-day basis whether you're allowed to do the work you want to do. You're also going to have to need a lot more capital to start something like this. The dive centre's just letting you use their equipment. However, you'll have to buy all the materials to build artificial reefs, all of your research materials, all of your monitoring equipment. All of this will need to be invested by you. You may also not have your own classroom space. You may be able to source an arrangement with the dive centre to rent theirs or use some of theirs, but this might not be possible in all cases. So you'll start to have to consider some of these things if you decide to go down this route. You also need to consider the marketing costs for a model like this. You will need to invest both time and money to promote your conservation dive centre. The dive centre you're working with may not be happy to share all your posts and to share your program all the time, as it will want to encourage people to come and do its recreational courses. You may also not be allowed to go in and convince students to do marine conservation because they may see it as poaching from their work. Other instructors who are teaching PADI and SSI may not be happy with you coming in and convincing people to continue their education in conservation diving rather than doing more courses which will gain them more money. So as well as marketing, you need to consider the dynamics and the relationships that you're going to have to manage within a dive centre, because this model does need some work with relationships in order to make it successful. The final model is the solo model. In this model, you start from scratch. You buy all your dive equipment, your boats, you get the staff you need to drive boats, manage equipment. You do everything as if you're starting your own dive centre, but you're doing it in marine conservation. This model is for someone who has a lot of experience, not just in scientific diving, but in the dive industry, and also has a fair chunk of capital behind you, or investment and backing. Now, as you can see, these programs don't all exist on their own, and even programs that I've been at and started don't fully fit into any of these models. However, by thinking about these individually, you can start to try and plan how you will best design your marine conservation program. In the videos that follow, I'm going to deep dive a little bit further into each of those models, giving you some examples that I know of, some plans, some financial approaches, and even some ways to initially get in contact with dive centres to try and get them to agree to the certain models that you would like to do. So, tune in again in the following weeks to try and learn a little bit more around what these models could mean. Thanks very much.